In today's video, I will show you a new long stitch design that you can knit on a double bed knitting machine. For this example, I cast on about 30 stitches. I'll be knitting a full needle rib, so I have all needles in action on my main bed and all needles in action on my rib bed. My beds are in half pitch. To begin the design, first I will knit rows on rib bed only. In order to knit rows only on the rib bed, I will be pressing both partial cams on my main bed, and this way the carriage will not knit. So I'm going to knit 4 rows on rib bed only. Using a contrast yarn, I will manually knit rows on my main bed. Pull the needles all the way out, then push them back just enough so that the latches still stay open. Then lay your yarn on top of the needles. Push the needles back even further so that the latches close up but don't complete the stitch. Then, holding a loose tension, manually knit a long stitch, pulling the needles all the way to the back. Pull the sample down, and you can also pull the needles a little bit to help the sample fall into place. At this point, depending on the yarn, you can decide if you want to knit a couple more rows on the rib bed only, so that it kind of equals with the length of the long stitches. I will leave 4 rows for mine, but you might need to knit a couple more rows. So the finer the yarn, the more rows you will have to knit. I will put my main carriage into working position, gently press onto any other cam, and then the partial cams will be released, or you can also press this little knob here that says plain and you will release the cams as well this way. I'll be knitting 2 rows on all needles, but you can knit as many rows as you like. As you can see here, some of the needles didn't complete the stitches properly. I can adjust that just going across over the needles, and this is something that can happen to you as well. In order to avoid that, make sure you have enough weight, and just to be sure, you can always pull the needles all the way out before knitting the first row, so it's easier to knit this way. This is how the sample looks. There are so many options you can try. I will link a couple of my other long stitches videos so you can see what I did in the past, but you can have a play and create your own version. For the next design idea, I will again knit rows on my rib bed only. I will start with 4 rows, and then I will manually knit a long stitch on my main bed. This time I will form a 3x3 cable with the long stitches, just as you would usually create a normal cable. You can also do a 2x2 cable or do a different design. Once I finish the cables, I will again put my main bed into working position and knit a couple of rows full needle. We'll go ahead and do another repeat. I think the best part about this design is that you have 2 layers, and even if you use a fine yarn, because you are knitting rows on rib bed as well, you have that structure to the sample, and it can be used in colder seasons as well. I can imagine this design used for a cardigan or a jacket. It can be really fun even used in smaller sections across the sleeves or the front of the garment. And this is my little sample. I have done this before with a 2x cable, and I think I prefer that over the 3x3 cable, but that is entirely up to you if you want to do a 2x2 cable or a 3x3 cable. For this sample, I used a technique from one of my older videos where I showed how to create these scallop or waves textures, and honestly, I'm so sad that that video is not more popular. I think it's really fun, and I will leave a link below if you want to give it a try. I promise it's really fun. And that is everything for today. I hope you liked this video and you will give it a try. If you do give it a try, please tag me on Instagram. It really means so much to see your samples. Also, don't forget to check out my Patreon. I will link both in the description down below. I will be doing a new live workshop very soon, and I would love if you joined us. It's really fun. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!